Let's talk about the age-old question of what do you do if you have a solid but not elite quarterback? And I think there's several ways you could look at what the true value of that quarterback is and how much should you pay them. Again, we're talking the Kirk Cousinses, the Daniel Joneses, the Jimmy Garoppolos, anyone in that category, Derek Carr, not saying that they're all in the exact same tier, but just in the tier of not someone who's going to win an MVP, but also someone who does add value to your football team. What is their value to that football team? And there's several ways you could look at it. One way you could look at it would be this, which is the salary cap is $224.8 million, and the average team spends roughly $10 million over the salary cap every year. So using that ratio, the average team wins 8.5 games a year. Therefore, teams spend $27.6 million per win, or at least they projectedly will in 2023. So, okay, how valuable is a specific quarterback? Let's just take Daniel Jones, for example. A lot of metrics kind of point to a quarterback of his value. It's worth about 2 wins a season. So, okay, well, that feels pretty good, right? According to this chart, he'd be worth over $50 million a year. He's only getting paid $40 million a year. So is he benefiting the Giants even with getting paid $40 million a year? Well, actually, yes. Kind of. See, here's where things get a little bit weird. Where, yes, Daniel Jones does help his team win football games if you use that ratio. The issue is quarterbacks can be such a cheat code in getting several wins for cheap value if you can do one of two things. If you can get a quality player, say a quarterback of Daniel Jones' value or better, like a Jalen Hurts, who I think we would all agree had a much better season than Jones did last year, but was also on a rookie deal, his value is significantly higher than just adding, an extra $13 million above their win total, right? His value is much better. Also, if you use that ratio, we're now talking about someone like Patrick Mahomes, who's consistently getting his team 4 wins or better. He now is worth over $100 million according to this ratio. So that being said, he's basically adding $50 million to his salary cap. You could look at that. He's underpaid by $50 million, you could argue. Someone like Jalen Hurts, maybe a 3-win quarterback, could be underpaid by like $70 million potentially. So these are massive swings for even the highest paid position in football is still criminally underpaid in specific areas. And so having Daniel Jones basically means you lose out on that potential, and now you have to compete with those style of quarterbacks. I made this chart a little bit ago. I think it does a good job of kind of, to me, sort of saying how much you should spend on each quarterback. According to my calculations, I think that you pretty much have to be a 2.3 win quarterback in today's NFL to win a Super Bowl. Yes, there are exceptions, Peyton Manning in 2015, but the reality is I would be shooting for the 2.3 win mark. And if you are paying a quarterback, if you do have a quarterback of that caliber, you pretty much have to be paying them nothing. So realistically, you need it a little bit better than 2.3 wins. Again, just to put in perspective, typically the kind of top 11 quarterbacks get you around 2.8 wins. So a higher caliber tier 3 quarterback will get you to 2.3 win mark. But again, to compete with the teams that are actually having quality quarterbacks that they're paying very little, or they're having elite quarterbacks that they're paying a lot, but they're worth a lot more, to compete with those teams, this is kind of the ratio of what you can spend. For a 3-win quarterback, you can spend about $23.5 million. Think of like maybe a Jimmy Garoppolo deal, although he's not quite the caliber of a 3-win quarterback. Again, we're talking top 10 quarterbacks at this point. 4-win quarterbacks, those tend to be the elite guys. Usually only like MVP winners will get you more than 4 wins in a season. Maybe you could argue they could get close to 5 if they have a really good season, but for a 4-win quarterback, that's kind of the average top 5 quarterback season, and they're worth $43.8 million. So for Daniel Jones, for example, this is pretty much where he has to be, according to my chart, for him to give his team a chance to win a Super Bowl, or that's maybe not the best way to phrase it, but for them to win a Super Bowl because of his contract. For those really good seasons, those are just so valuable that even in this chart, you can see how much value there is of a $71 million deal would still be worth it and still give you a chance to win a Super Bowl with a 5-win quarterback. So again, if the Chiefs paid Mahomes $71 million a year, it would still probably be a good deal. That's just how valuable he is and why the Chiefs are going to be Super Bowl contenders for his entire career, basically. And then the 8.53 win quarterback. The reason why I landed on that number is that's the highest PFF WAR I've seen a quarterback be given out in a season. That was Tom Brady, and that would be worth over $100 million. So yeah, if you can get one of those seasons, it's worth its weight in gold. However, for the the lower caliber things like 3 and 4 win quarterbacks, which are still very high caliber quarterbacks, those are the ones you have to be a little bit more stingy on. Again, the way I calculate these numbers is by looking at the elite quarterbacks and how much value they bring to their team and figuring out how you can get that similar value with a quarterback who isn't as good, how much littler you have to pay them, and it's pretty significantly smaller. So for someone like Daniel Jones, who while I like what he did last year, I think you could argue that he's never been a 2.3 win quarterback, which is where I say you have to be to have a realistic chance at winning a Super Bowl. Although I would argue he was a 2.3 win quarterback season guy last year, but that's the only year we've seen it from him, and it still wasn't by much. You're basically in a situation where you're kind of I think 40 million behind the 8 ball right here in terms of trying to win a Super Bowl. Again, you feel like it's a good deal. And I do have to say, if the goal is to just try and make the playoffs, it probably is a good deal. It probably puts you in a better position to make the playoffs than it would have been to let him walk and then just sign some 0-win quarterback for $0 million a year, right? Which obviously, wouldn't happen just in general. But still, that probably is the move. But the reality is, it's just a hard way to win a Super Bowl that way. And the value of having a good quarterback on a rookie deal, a 2-win quarterback on a rookie deal saves you $50 million a year, right? Like I said, the 4-win quarterback on a $50 million deal saves you $50 million a year, excuse me. But the Daniel Jones contract, it only saves you $10 million a year, which for the quarterback position, they're pretty much all underpaid and they pretty much all help your team win. And I think that's the better way to phrase it and better way to realize it is the better quarterback you get, it does help you win, but certain quarterbacks on certain contracts don't just help you win, but make it almost hard to lose because of how much value they add. The Chiefs have made bad contracts and they've made some tough decisions, made some great decisions as well. The drafts they had last year and really the past couple of years have been great, but like the Frank Clark contract was a tough one, but they can afford that because they have Patrick Mahomes, so it's not a big issue for them, at least is how I see it. So that's just the way I view the quarterback position and why I kind of am against some of these middling contracts, but I'm really for paying the elite guys. Like Lamar Jackson, for example, has shown he can be a 4-win quarterback, so giving him 4-win quarterback money to me is worth it. But for other guys, I'd rather, if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, trade them and try to make it work through the draft, and maybe you can find something that way. That's just kind of the way I view it. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What do you guys think? Let me know in the Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.